The story I want to share today is about never giving up on yourself, never giving up on your education, and if there is even a small chance something can happen, then it could happen. The story I want to share today is about a student I had a couple years ago in an intermediate algebra class. So a developmental level intermediate algebra class. And all semester long, this student sat in the back, didn't really take notes, did minimal homework, if any, up to a certain point. But the entire semester, this student just kind of rode that line between getting an F, getting a D, never really even touching a C. And you need a C to pass. With developmental classes, that grade doesn't get factored into your GPA. So oftentimes I have noticed that if a student feels very unchallenged at that level of class, they tend to not do anything, not want to complete the work, not want to do homework, not want to achieve their best possible score, because what does it matter? All they have to do is pass. They just got to pass this class, move on to college level mathematics classes. So I get that. It makes sense to me. I understand that completely. I've seen it dozens of times where students go into those classes where the GPA, the grade in that class doesn't affect the GPA, so why should I work my tail off for an A when I can do very minimal work and focus on my other classes and still get a C and I'll move on and it doesn't matter? This student took that to heart. This student really made it a point to, I'm going to do the minimum amount of work to hopefully pass this class. But they really, really buried themselves into a pretty deep hole pretty early on in the semester. And I know who these students are within the first couple weeks. I could figure it out pretty quickly, like, okay, this student is in this class. They absolutely do not need this class. They either blew off the placement exam, they didn't try very hard in the placement exam, didn't try hard in high school, so their grades didn't give them a decent placement into a college level class. Like, I figure it out very, very quickly. It's very obvious based on students that don't do homework, but then show up exam day and get B's and A's and do the exams very, very quickly. That's usually a pretty big tell. The quick exams are a big tell. Either they know exactly what they're doing and they just blast right through it, or they have no idea what they're doing and they left half the exam blank. More times than that, it's the students know what they're doing and they're just very quick with it. And this student was on my radar almost immediately of one of those people who are gonna not do a whole lot, and I hope that they get out. I'm definitely not the type of teacher that is wanting the student to fail. You know, like I've seen it in the past where teachers will, like, oh, they're not a good student, like they don't deserve to go on to the next level. I've heard that discussion before. I don't think that's necessarily true. Like I said before, I've seen it where students are very unchallenged in a class and they don't need to push themselves. Like, what's the point? I know how to do this. I'll be fine. I don't think they need to sit there and spin their wheels in developmental math for 2 semesters or 3 semesters just to make a point of, like, all right, now I'm a good student, now I'm ready for college math. And I think they need that little push. I think they need to get into that challenge where, like, okay, like I'm underwater right here. I need to start doing the homework. I need to start paying attention in class. I need to start taking notes. Like, that's when the red flags are occurring in their head. Like, wait, I'm not getting this. I need to do something about this. And I've heard other math teachers or other teachers in the profession say that when they're students, like, they never did homework. Like, I completely understand that argument of, I'm not going to do the homework because it's not going to benefit me. Unfortunately, it hurts your grade. It gets to that point where it's hurting your grade. It's sinking you lower and lower because you're not completing the homework based on the homework completion. And sometimes, like, yeah, if you're not taking notes, like, you might not know how to do something. And it might affect your score in the exam. Whether or not you think you know how to do it, but then you're like, wait, how do I do this? And you're trying to figure out on the exam or a quiz, and it might not work out in your favor. So back to the student, they were in that position where they weren't doing a single homework assignment. They were Getting good grades on exams, nothing like spectacular, like just enough to keep them in that range of like, hey, you could pass this, you might not, like depending on what happens here. So going through the semester, the student was just up and down, up and down, up and down. Might have missed an exam at one point, but I have a dropped exam for the developmental, so there's 5 total exams, 4 count towards the overall grade, and they might have missed and then just figured, like, you know what, I'm not going to like make that up. I'm just going to eat the 0 there. I'm not exactly positive on that, but I know towards the end, they started to panic a little bit because I got a couple emails asking, like, hey, do you still accept late work? And in my syllabus, it says late work all the way up until the end of the semester, like the week before finals. So they took care of a couple assignments and brought their grade back up to about a 64. So 64% going into the final exam. Final exams were 15% of their overall grade. They need about a 97 to a 98% to pull out a C, like a 70%, a C, and move on to the next thing. Move on to college math, because this is intermediate algebra. Move on to college level mathematics or whatever they need, but they're moving on. That's what they need. And based on the students and their history in the class, like, I didn't think that they were going to pull it off. Like, not doubting their ability, doubting the moment of taking a final exam, a cumulative final of 45 questions, to execute 45 questions front to back, question 1 to question 45, and only miss like a point or 2 points based on the grading scheme for that exam. That's hard to pull off. That's what I was like, I just don't know if this can be done. Like, I've never seen a student score 100% on a final. I've never seen a student score even in I've seen a couple like high 90s. But those were students that just were preparing all semester long, doing all the work, getting A's on all the exams. Like, that's where I see those A's. So this student needed a 97-ish, 98-ish to get a 70. The student shows up, and the comparison I want to make here, this is like a football comparison, this is the 4th quarter. We're down 3 scores. 2-minute drill. We drive downfield, onside kick. We drive downfield again, onside. Like this is how miraculous this was. This performance, like it took every single thing to go right on this exam to end up getting that passing grade, and they did it. They pulled it out. They got the 98%, and their grade squeaked up to about a 70.5, 70.6, like just enough, and they did it. It was really, in my teaching career, like I've never seen that sort of swing from like a 64% to a 70 based on that final. Maybe it was like closer to a 65, but it was in that realm of like you need every single thing to go right in order to get out of this class, and they did, and I was happy. I was definitely not in that mindset of like, oh, like they snuck through the cracks, like they still didn't do any of the homework, and they still blew off a lot of, like, they didn't take any notes, they didn't even know how to take notes. Like, that's fine, like they'll figure it out. I'm not worried about that. Clearly the challenge wasn't there. They didn't need that class to push themselves. They wanted to push themselves in other areas, and that's completely fine. I just hope now, I mean, this is a couple of years ago, but I just hope now this student is succeeding in college level math and moved on, or hopefully, I think it was about 2 years ago at this point. So maybe they're even done with college. I don't know. I haven't heard from them since, but it was one of the most remarkable, memorable things that have happened in my teaching career, of when it seems like it's over. It seems like there's no chance. There's a chance. There was a very, very small chance that this student could pull out a passing grade, and they did it. And I just want you to hear this story as motivation of when your back's up against the wall, when it seems like, I don't know if I'm going to pass this class, maximum effort at all times, unless there is a mathematical proof. Like if your teacher's saying, like, mathematically you need 175% on this final to pass this class, unless that's happening, you got to give maximum effort at all times. You have to push all 4 quarters. You got to push down to that final. That clock hits 0:00. Like that's when you quit. Is when it's over, because this student didn't quit, and I was really happy for them. I don't want to see anybody repeat any math classes, and definitely not for the pride of saying you're not ready for college math. Like I don't want that to happen. I want them to move on and be successful. And so hopefully that happened. I really hope good things happen after that. But I just wanted to share this story, and hopefully it motivates you if you have final exams coming up or going into the next semester as your final semester. Whatever you need to do, but just use that story as motivation to achieve that next goal that you have, or pass that class that you think you're not going to pass. So good luck.